Only a few months after the horrific Battle of Geonosis, which marked the beginning of the Clone Wars, General Luminara Unduli and her apprentice, Commander Barriss Offee, were sent to the Hellish mountain world of Nadiem, where they were forced to evacuate the civilian population from an incoming Separatist invasion. During the intense evacuation, however, Barriss Offee was forced to do something incredibly brave to save the lives of her men and herself. So, I'm going to break down the story of how Barriss Offee saved the lives of her clone troopers by faking their deaths while the Separatist droid army marched past. Before we get into it, make sure to smash the subscribe button for more awesome Star Wars lore content. Only a small percentage of you are currently subscribed, so make sure to force choke the big red button down below if you enjoyed the video. The story begins inside of the treacherous Threadneedle Canyon on the rocky world of Nadiem, where Republic High Command has deployed General Luminara Unduli and her Padawan Barriss Offee to ensure the safety of the local citizens. Luminara's ARC Trooper commander, who unfortunately doesn't have a name, begins to scout out the interior of the tall canyon before he spots a single file advancing line of Separatist battle droids. Since this awesome ARC commander doesn't have a name, let me know down below what you think he should be called after you finish the story. As soon as he makes this dangerous observation, he immediately orders his men to fall back to the next marker before marching back to their General Luminara. While on the rigorous trek back to the main village of Nadiem, Red Commander begins a transmission with Master Luminara, informing her that the droid army is rapidly advancing, and if they continue on at their breakneck speed, they'll reach the village in less than 1 hour. Luminara is slightly concerned for the safety of the citizens inside the village, but she brushes this off and instructs Red Commander to continue as ordered. As Luminara ends the transmission, Barriss Offee walks up to her with great concern on her face and asks Luminara, worried about the battle master? Of course, as we know from Luminara's cold and calculated personality, she doesn't let her internal fear or worry slip out through her expressions, telling Barriss that she has extreme confidence in her clone soldiers. As the evacuation continues, Luminara moves into the center of the village and asks Blue Lieutenant how the evacuation operation is proceeding. Blue Lieutenant reluctantly tells his general that things are going well, but moving very slowly. He tells Luminara that the reason for this ridiculously slow-moving evacuation is because most of the civilians are being extremely greedy and trying to bring their personal belongings along with them, and even some farm animals and pets. With limited space on board the evacuation vessels and even more limited time, Luminara comes up with a plan to get things moving along much more quickly so that the Separatists aren't able to surround the village and decimate everyone inside. Master Luminara immediately calls everyone in the village to attention, bringing them together to listen to her very important announcement. With great caution and care in her words, Luminara delicately tells the citizens of the village that her and her men are doing absolutely everything they can to bring everyone to safety, but simply cannot fit their personal belongings along with them. She delivers the news that nobody in the village wants to hear, but is absolutely necessary for their own survival. As soon as she finishes her sentence, Luminara is met with extreme anger and disdain from the villagers, who call out to her and begin shouting reasons why they don't want to leave their belongings behind. One local farmer even walks up to Luminara and asks to bring his Opie on board, but she coldly and calmly dismantles the man, telling him that the animal will require the space of 3 people before asking him the brutal question, which of your neighbors do you suggest we deny passage? The farmer, of course, doesn't know how to respond to Luminara's destruction of his argument, leading the farmer to release the animal far into the arid landscape of the planet. Let me know down below how you feel about citizens being separated from their pets. Master Luminara then quickly extends her warning out to the rest of the citizens, telling them that if they wish to board the transports to be evacuated in a quick manner, they must abide by the rules. Luminara's message does begin to be accepted by the villagers, with one man agreeing that getting all of the families out of danger from Separatist invasion is much more important than any objects that they may own. This comment sends a chain reaction through the villagers, with each of them painfully dumping their prized possessions into a pile under the supervision of the 2 Jedi. Moments later, however, a stern, angry look washes over Luminara's face as she notices a very suspicious man. Luminara uses her methodical thinking to realize that there is absolutely no way that this tiny village produces enough food every month to make a man that fat. Because of this, she rips her lightsaber off of her belt in an instant, igniting the bright green blade before viciously slashing the man in 2. Of course, Luminara's precise lightsaber strike doesn't harm the man, but instead reveals his disgusting attempt to smuggle credits, food, and other valuable items into the Republic transports, while everyone else was forced to dump their possessions. Most of the villagers gasp in fear as a controlled rage flows through Luminara, exclaiming that the man should be deeply ashamed of himself. In response, the man profusely apologizes to the cold Jedi Master, agreeing to dump all of his belongings onto the pile. Luminara quickly sends the dodgy man to the back of the evacuation line, and the rest of the villagers stare at him with a deep disgust. Immediately following that, Red Commander reports in, telling Master Luminara that they've found another group of refugees nearby, but that one of them is sick, meaning that they won't be able to bring them back to the village center. Because of this, Barriss offers to lead the other evacuation group and bring them to safety. Luminara reluctantly agrees to this, worrying that her Padawan is not ready. As soon as her gunship arrives at the other group, Barriss leaps down onto the rocky surface and greets her squad of clones. Meanwhile, behind Separatist lines, General Grievous is directing his forces and orders his heaviest tanks to smash through Barriss's forces, while Luminara is informed that General Sacy Tin's fleet has successfully destroyed all Separatist air forces. Luminara then immediately relays this information to Barriss with her squad, but Barriss unfortunately delivers the bad news that there was only enough room on the transport to carry the civilians back to the village, leaving Offee and her troopers stranded inside of the dusty valley. Barriss refuses to abandon her clone troopers and demands that her master not send another transport because Grievous's forces will be quickly closing in. Luminara offers her the best of luck and asks the Force to strongly guide her apprentice before Red Commander fills Barriss in on their earlier plan to ambush the droid forces and detonate massive destructive blast charges in the narrowest part of the canyon to block the droid's advances. Barriss is not comfortable continuing with the initial plan because she quickly realizes that it will be a death sentence for all of her men. Immediately following this, Barriss and her men open fire on the incoming droid forces, sending a barrage of blaster fire rapidly bolting through the canyon. Moments later, however, Barriss orders her men to drop to the floor and pretend to be dead, with the very slim hope that the B-1 battle droids approaching are dumb enough to continue marching forward without noticing. Fortunately for them, the B-1 battle droids do not notice that the clone troopers and the Jedi still have vital signs and report to General Grievous that they can proceed without worry. Immediately after, Barriss ensures that all of her men are alright before a separate unit of battle droid forces approaches the village, beginning a vicious firefight. Many brave men are sadly killed in the hot red explosions that line the village border as the droid forces continue their advance. Back in the canyon, Grievous is incredibly confused to learn that his forces are being attacked from behind after believing that all of the clones and Jedi had been killed earlier. Barriss then quickly orders all of her men to open fire on the droids and deploy all blast charges, sending a horrific shockwave through the canyon, followed closely by a bright red and yellow fireball, destroying almost every single droid there. As soon as Grievous learns of this, he viciously smashes his command holotable in anger as Barriss returns to the village to greet her master. Luminara is shocked to learn that she actually made it out alive and that none of her clones were killed in the blast. Barriss then quickly explains the tactic and how she faked her own death and the deaths of her men in order to ambush the droids from behind, saving countless lives in the process. As you can expect, Luminara is incredibly pleased with the incredible strategy and planning that went into this, smiling at her Padawan as the village is eventually saved from Grievous's forces. So that is the story of how Barriss faked the deaths of her clone troopers to save their lives. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.